whether or not objective moral values and duties exist, and we are starting right now. Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have you here for another epic debate, as we are very excited about this one, folks. It is going to be tremendous. We are very happy to have two experienced debaters back on Modern Day Debate with us, friends of the channel, you could say, who have been on many times. And so we want to say a couple of things up front. First, if it's your first time here, consider hitting that subscribe button, as we've got a lot more debates coming up. We are very excited about, for example, this Saturday morning, veganism is going to be on trial, you could say, as Cosmic Skeptic will be defending whether or not veganism is a moral obligation against Sterling. So that should be a lot of fun, folks. A very big, important question of our day. So with that, though, I do want to let you know as well, today we're going to have a fairly, you could say, half debate, half discussion type of format. It's going to be a 10-minute opening from each side, followed by a 5-minute rebuttal from each side, and then 10 minutes of cross-examination toward each other, then Q&A. So if you have a question, feel free to fire that question into the old live chat. If you tag me with an @ModernDayDebate, it makes it a little bit easier for me to make sure I see it. And then Super Chat is, of course, an option as well. So if you do a Super Chat, it allows you to make a comment during the question and answer as well, to which the debaters would, of course, get a chance to respond to. We would just ask that whether it be a question or a comment, that you'd be your friendly, usual selves. And do also want to say that a Super Chat would also push your question or comment to the top of the list as we go through the Q&A. So with that, very exciting stuff, folks. This is going to be a lot of fun. We want to let you know, put both links of the speakers down in the description. So if you're listening and you're like, I like that, I want more, well, you can have more because I put those links down there for you. And with that, folks, we're going to jump right into this. SJ is going to be taking the lead with her opening statement, followed by Skylar with his. And so I have the timer set for you, SJ and Skylar. But first, let me just say, before we do start the timer, thanks so much, both of you, for being here. It's a pleasure to have you both here.
Thank you. You're amazing, James. Every day that I get to come on here and look at those that beautiful face of yours, it's another day worth living, James.
Thank you.
You do a great job, James. I mean, you've gone from sort of like 0 to, what do you have now, 13,000 followers? You've just done an amazing job, and you're bringing so many great people on. I mean, I'm just a humbled person on here compared to some of the greats that you've brought in, as far as some of the other names. You had Matt Dillahunty and David Wood recently, and that was a great debate to watch. And you've had, obviously, an Inspiring Philosophy is one of my favorites too. And so you've just been doing a great job.
Thank you for your encouraging words. All credit to the speakers, as they are like people like you who make this fun. And so the more the merrier. Well, reminder, folks, we're a nonpartisan channel. So whether you be Christian or atheist or one of the many strange creatures between, we do hope you feel welcome no matter who you are, what walk of life you're from. And so with that, thanks both of you for being here. Thanks for your kind words. And SJ, I have the timer set for you for 10 minutes.
Okay, let me just share my screen here. Whoops. Host disabled participant screen sharing, it says.
Oh, yeah. Let me, that's no problemo. What I'm going to do is, we've had this, strangely, it keeps kicking back in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you host, and then you will, until I can fix it, we'll
be able to do that. Okay.
That's right.
All right, awesome. My dog has decided to start barking. That's not good. Okay. Okay, so let me, slideshow, current slide. Okay, so the question is, do we have objective moral values and duties, or more simply, do we have objective morality? And so to answer that, I'm going to point to just two pictures in two different slides, but I have the quiz. Is the treatment of the babies of prisoners in Camp 14 in North Korea morally and objectively wrong? In case you're not aware of what happened in Camp 14, is this man escaped. He escaped by climbing over barbed wire fence over the body of another person who was escaping, who had died on the barbed wire. The barbed wire was electrified and he died. And what happens in these places is people are so desperate for food that they eat their own babies in some cases. And the kids who are born into these camps have obviously no guilt of their own. Entire families are rounded up and thrown into the camps, regardless of whether or not all of them had committed a supposed crime against the state. So it's pretty bad there. And I would say that, yes, we can say as a collective, this is objectively morally wrong. It is not a subjective opinion. It's something that is stance independent. Now the next one. So do we have objective morality. If we have stance-independent moral values and duties, then we have objective morality. We do have stance-independent, which are axiomatic moral values and duties. Accordingly, we have objective morality. Now, let me explain what that means. To be stance-independent means they do not vary as a function of any person, culture, or generation's opinion. They are axiomatic. Another word for that is self-evident. Like, for example, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created, they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm sure you've heard that. So some examples of objective values that we have are truth, justice, equity, another word for that is fairness, love, and equality of opportunity. These are something that we discover, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. Objective duties include the golden rule. We've done studies, and I'm going to get to that in a minute too. We have discovered that we have a categorical imperative to do what's right and to maximize values. This is not a hypothetical imperative. That was one of the big distinctions in the Matt Dillahunty, David Wood debate. They were talking a lot about hypotheticals versus categoricals. Hypothetical would be saying, if I do this, then I get that. So Matt Dillahunty was trying to make that distinction by saying, if we all agree that we want to maximize well-being, then we have a foundation for the maximization of well-being. And that is hypothetical. Again, it should be distinguished of, yes, we just have this foundation. Do atheists acknowledge global universals, and are they subject to change? Well, yes, actually. I've got an atheist right here called Jonathan Haidt. He's out of the New York Stern School of Business. He surveyed evolutionary theories in human and primate sociality, along with a list of virtues, etc. And he identified 5 what he calls foundations of morality. Now, again, this suggests we have objective morality. These are care. These, of course, have their counterparts, but care, fairness, loyalty, authority, and purity and liberty. Okay, so we've got these different values, and we could probably even add more. In fact, I think he's missing truth. Truth is a value that clearly we hold. And again, truth is not subject to anyone's opinion. It's either the truth. There's an absolute truth out there, absolute facts, and that's my case. So we also have another example in different studies. We've got these other examples of global universals in temperance, justice, transcendence, humanity, wisdom. We've got other examples: honesty, charity, mutual aid, generosity, the prohibition of theft and homicide. We've got examples of fairness and trust. So what I'm saying is we find these all over the world. We can say that this idea of, say, truth does not vary as a function of anyone's opinion. Something's either the truth or it's not the truth. It just certainly exists. It's not whether or not someone recognizes the truth. That would be an epistemological error. All right, so then we have this issue with another idea. According to Kinnear, we found these objective moral values and duties, and some of the values and duties include things such as a commitment to something greater than oneself, self-respect, respect and caring for others, which is the golden rule, and then, of course, caring for other things and the environment. So what I'm looking at today is the question of whether moral values and duties exist. So this is an ontological question. Ontology is a branch of metaphysics. It's saying, do we have a standard of good and bad values or right and wrong duties? So moral ontology is to be distinguished from moral epistemology. Moral epistemology refers to the knowledge of morality and how one comes to know one's morals, and it's not to be conflated with whether or not the morals exist. For example, just because Johnny does not like math or learned math in this or that school or considers math to be of no value does not mean that math does not exist. And we can apply this to a lot of moral questions. So the conclusion is our science doesn't allow us to say what the Nazis did during World War II or what Kim Jong-un has done in North Korea our conscience doesn't allow us to say that is not objectively wrong, okay? So I'm gonna get to Skylar's position, but I think that might be 10 minutes if I'm not. Do you have much more time? I do. Okay, so I guess I'll go to another little slide here. So Skylar's position is this view of moral relativism. Actually, he said it's moral subjectivism. So he rejects the view that I hold. He does not believe in that view at all. And this is the view that we have no absolute truth. It's a matter of opinions. There are no moral facts. When in Rome, do as the Romans. Bribery is acceptable in China. Therefore, I can go ahead and bribe in China. According to this view, female genital mutilation is acceptable in Somalia. Therefore, we can do female genital mutilation in Somalia. There's other examples in the British Pitcairn Islands where people routinely break in their 10-year-olds by having sex with them because it is acceptable in the British Pitcairn Islands. What that means is that we have no means by which to judge these other people across the world who are really doing egregious human things to one another. Okay, so this is the idea, again, looking at this, whether or not we have these objective moral values and standards. I'm not looking at how people have come to discover them. In some societies, people have discovered in a better way than others so far. Like I would say, for example, when we compare the United States and our views on female genital mutilation and having sex with 10-year-olds to break them in, we would say that that is morally wrong. And we would say that we're vowing to this moral standard of treating people right, doing what's right in the eyes of the Lord, essentially. So in this, let me go back to this. So if I would say we can look around the world and we will be able to identify places where people are doing things wrong, but that does not mean that we do not have objective moral standards by which we should live. So this idea that I'm saying, going back to my original slide right here. Oh, here's another one. So were what the Nazis did morally and objectively wrong? Look at that little boy down on the right. Pretty bad. So going back to this idea that I just want to reiterate before I get to let Skylar go ahead, and I'll give some of my time back, I guess, is we have these objective values: truth, justice, equity, love, equality of opportunity, etc. The idea is we try to achieve these values. We discovered them over time. We can go back into history and look at the time when Jesus lived, for example, when people didn't necessarily value the individual. Individual females were routinely put out on the streets for exposure. Males were a lot of time elevated over females. Females were treated as second-class citizens. Jesus came and basically said, we're all equal. In fact, St. Paul said that as well. Neither slave nor free. People are equal in the eyes of the Lord. And so that those values, this idea of the individual and individualism over the collective, has been something that succeeded over the past 2,000 years. And as that time has grown on, we've grown to come to appreciate these values. We're discovering them. And so we're holding these values to be true. And so one of the other great things that I want to mention is a book by Tom Holland called Dominion, because Tom Holland recognized the value of Christianity and what that's done for society and how that's even brought us to this whole value of equality. So despite the fact we have differences in, say, height, weight, beauty, IQ, all these different differences, one of the great things about the West is we've really appreciated this idea of Christianity and taken on the idea that we should value we hold these truths to be self-evident: equality. Everyone gets equal treatment despite unequal incomes and inputs, I should say. So that is it. I will conclude. And so Skylar is up next.
All right. Thanks so much for that, SJ. The floor is, in just a moment, we will hand over the floor to Skylar. And then, SJ, what I would just ask you to do is, we've had this glitch, for some reason, just keep popping up, is when you are looking at your Zoom window, SJ, if you could do me a favor and click on Skylar's button on the top right of his screen, that will have 3 white dots on it. And
yeah,
if you will click Make Host, that will pass over the ability for Skylar to share his screen as well.
Do I want to change? Yes. Okay, just did.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And folks, very excited. Thanks so much for your questions so far. We are going to turn it over to Skylar right now. Thanks for being here, Skylar. The floor is all yours.
Yeah, let me see if let me make sure this works first. Tell me if you can see me and the and my argument up. Can you see both?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Let me start my time. Okay, so a lot to say here. Couple things I want to say. First of all, appreciate James hosting us and SJ for having this debate. I want to say that there's a couple things that SJ had mentioned that are really not relevant to the debate. First, anything about moral relativism, my position is not relevant to a debate on actually proving and showing that objective morals and values and duties exist. So I'm not going to talk about my position very much during this actual debate. The second thing, what I would tell you is that I didn't actually hear any demonstration of anything. I heard you appeal to people are really feeling like their morals are real and that people have similar morals throughout the world. But that doesn't actually tell you if morals are objective, if they're actually real things, not regardless of, human emotion, opinion, things along that line. And the last thing before I get into my argument that you can see up here on the screen is that I want to talk about that this particular argument is geared towards SJ and the Christian foundation of God. There are other views on objective morality from secular standpoints, non-religious positions that have different types of arguments for why morals are objective. I am specifically attacking the Christian foundation of objective morality, because if you attack the foundation and the foundation can't exist, there can be no objective morality in the way that SJ is articulating. So let's just jump into it. Let's see here. And hopefully during the rebuttal period, you get to actually hear SJ actually try or attempt to at least show why these premises are faulty. Maybe we'll get to that later on. Premise 1. God's nature is the root and foundation of morality. I don't think that she's going to disagree with that. In fact, I think she kind of made that argument in the beginning. I've seen watching her videos. I've actually seen her make this argument. Christians in general believe this. Now, are you going to find a Christian every once in a while that may have a different out of the normal position on what morality is rooted in? Sure. But SJ's position is God's nature is the root and foundation of morality. God, premise 2, can do nothing that goes against his nature. So let's talk about his nature here for just a moment. His nature is his essence, his being. That's what they say. Like when they say God is justice, God is love, God is morality, he is the literal standard of it. The reason why something like lying is immoral is because God is not a liar. It would go against God's nature to lie. That's why God can't sin. It would be literally doing something that's not within his nature. To give you an analogy would be like, think about the nature of a tree, right? Now, a tree, you can cut it down, you can make it into firewood, you can burn it, you can make it into furniture. You can do many things with a tree, but only what's available through its nature. You can't make a tree turn into plutonium, right? You can't make a tree grow wings out of its back and fly. It's not within its nature or its capability to do so. So when you think about God, God's nature is moral, perfect. Like the absence of that morality, the opposite of it is what sin is. That's why it is not moral to lie, because lying would go against God's nature. So just to kind of really clear out premise 2. So God can do nothing that can go against his nature. Well, yeah, it's just like, God can do nothing logically impossible is another way to say this too. If it's not in God's nature to be evil, because evil is the opposite of God, how could God do evil? It's not possible. Premise 3, ordering people to do evil would go against God's nature, because once again, committing evil, doing evil, having people do an action that goes against his nature, he just can't do something that is immoral, because he can't do what is against his very nature. Premise 4, executing babies is easy. Not easy. It can be easy, I guess, to some of the Israelites in the Bible or God. But premise 3, premise 4, executing babies is evil. Listen, SJ, that's why I was so happy SJ started with this. SJ literally told you guys in the beginning that when North Korea executes babies, the action of executing babies is immoral. And she asked you guys, she went and, anybody out there think that executing babies is moral? God does. Christians who follow their God and believe that God ordered human beings to execute babies, they believe that God is moral for doing so. Maybe they don't. That's the thing we're going to see. So we're going to premise 4, executing babies is evil. I don't think SJ is going to disagree with that. Maybe she will. I mean, if she doesn't disagree executing babies is evil, there may not be a contradiction there. But then you'd have to be forced in the position that, it's totally cool to execute babies, not immoral. Premise 5, God has ordered humans to execute babies. This is very clear. I can give you multiple verses. You know what? I'm not going to switch screens, but I can tell you 1 Samuel. I can go to Deuteronomy, where it tells you to kill little boys after you invade a city. There are numerous cases, the Midianites. I mean, you got it. Amalekites, Canaanites, all the ites. God has them go wipe out complete civilizations. And then, of course, as you guys are very familiar with some of my arguments about this, 1 Samuel is the most clear. So I'm not going to go into those. You can go look them up yourself if you need them. later, he's going to he's going against his own nature. This is a contradiction, and thus this God you propose is not logically possible. Right? You think about all the times, like if you said you were to ask a Christian, would God ever order a human being to rape a child? Like they're going to say, of course. Their initial response by the Christian is going to be like, absolutely not. God cannot order people to do immoral actions. But unless you're going to call it moral to execute children, how could you make that argument? Of course, God, you would have to at least admit God can order immoral actions, stuff that is evil. But then that's strange because then how could God, if ordering, if it is immoral or evil to order or command someone to execute a baby, how could God command somebody to execute a baby if it's evil? Unless you're going to argue that's not evil, the ordering and commanding of that. So let's see here. We stop share because I want to go back to some of the notes I made when you were talking here. 1 second. Yeah, I would say that the main thing I had issue with is when you were kind of giving your opening is you didn't actually provide any evidence besides just saying people really feel like these morals are real, and you pointed to people having similarities. I mean, if we want to play that game, I could just point to a time in history where women were basically property, owned and bought, as your Bible allows and God allows. Was it now? Like I said, is it morally okay to own women as property for them to have no rights? Why would God tell people they could do it? Okay. Oh, with your study, which I'd be really interested in reading the study. Actually, you said that they were able to come up with 5 foundations. Isn't God the foundation? What are their foundations? Are they saying the actual morals of the foundation? Or are they saying God? Where are they saying these morals come from in that study? I'd like to know how you actually could know that there are actual objective standards by doing a study, besides just literally asking in people's opinions and ideas, or doing surveys. You said something about I don't. You said something about absolute truth. I don't know what truth and morality. They're not exactly the same thing. I believe in truth. You threw the word absolute truth in front of it. I don't know what that means in comparison to truth. Something's true, it's true. Throwing the word absolutely in front of it doesn't do anything. Doesn't make a statement less true by saying it's absolutely true or whatever. So I don't know. I do believe in truth. I just don't believe there are moral facts. I'm getting close to out of time here. I'll just say that I would just really hope that there is some type of something more than just claims about whether these moral values exist. When I get into my cross examination, I'll show you even further how when you root these morals in God, it really falls apart even further. But I'll give up the rest of my time and thank you.
We will now switch it over into the 5-minute rebuttal portion. So thanks so much, folks, for all of your questions so far. I'm keeping an eye on the live chat. And SJ, I've got the timer set for your 5-minute rebuttal. Floor is all yours.
Excellent. Can you pass me as host again? I'm sorry.
That's Skylar. If you're, I had reset it in the settings on Zoom, but now it just keeps resetting itself. So, Skylar,
okay.
on the top right, you'll see an option.
Yep.
Thanks for your
make host.
flexibility,
You
guys.
got it. No worries. Yeah, you're all good.
All right. Thank you. Sorry for that. Okay. Well, here's the quandary that Skylar is in. To win this debate, which is focusing on whether we have objective morality, Skylar cannot reject his own position to appeal to objective morality. If he does so, he's exposed the inherent flaws in his position. So the debate question was not about God and the foundation of morality. The debate question spoke to moral ontology, whether or not the question is, do objective moral values exist? This is an ontological question. And so to debate this, I prepared by actually looking at the position Skylar has. I have a moral realist position within this ontological framework, and Skylar has a moral subjectivist or relativist position. So what a relativist does is a relativist says that everything's relative and you can't judge another culture. However, Skylar has basically rejected his own moral subjectivist position to grab onto my position and say that what God did back in the Old Testament was objectively wrong. Essentially, he's rejected his position and smuggled in my position to say it's objectively wrong what anything happened in the Old Testament. He is not allowed to do that under his own framework. So Skylar essentially has already lost the debate. And so let me go on to some more points. Again, two types of moral ontology: moral realism and moral relativism. So realists believe one truth exists and truth is unchanging and discoverable via objective measurements. This is a deductive approach, which suggests one can start from a generalization to make specific hypotheses about reality. Moral relativists believe that truth does not exist without meaning. Truth is dependent upon the meaning you attach to it. Reality is created and evolves and changes depending on one context and situation. This is an inductive approach. And so if whether morality exists is a meta-ethical question of moral ontology using epistemological evidence of how we developed it is not going to be, or was going to be, a problem. It's a category error. Whether we have universal and objective moral values as is a descriptive question. If we have duties, this is a prescriptive question. So if someone tries to say that you can use biology, evolutionary biology, to try to explain whether we have moral duties, they are making a category error, because biology and evolution can only explain descriptions, not prescriptions. Universals have been identified, supporting the axiomatic truths of life, liberty, equity, equality, justice, and truth. Without such universal and objective moral values and duties, we cannot condemn the most egregious practices in societies, which is why our discovered moral facts have been codified by governing entities. So, of course, Skylar is going to go into some of the issues that were in the Old Testament. But again, what he's doing is he's rejecting his own position of moral subjectivism, taking my position of moral objectivism. Unless Skylar is willing to do that and reject his moral relativism or subjectivism and say that he will endorse the moral objective values and duties that we have, I've essentially won the debate. But I will entertain, for the purpose of Skylar's presentation, more time on discussing what he wants to discuss. Because, of course, yes, morality is grounded in God. They have no other explanation that would explain what grounds morality. If it transcends cultures, peoples, and generations, the grounding must also transcend cultures, peoples, and generations. So it logically follows that our morality is grounded in a transcendent being or mind, and that would be God. And so I just gave Skylar a little bit of a bone, because that's going way past what our debate was supposed to cover. So I will turn it over to Skylar now.
Thanks so much. And same deal, if you're willing to make, well, I should say, unless Skylar doesn't need slides anymore, if you're willing to just unshare, we will switch back into the dialogue boxes. No problem.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I do need it.
Here, I'll make him. I'm making him.
Let me.
Make host.
Very excited, folks. If you haven't heard, Wotan, the flat earther, will be back this Friday. It was a short retirement. I don't know if you heard, last Friday we had heard that Wotan, he told me that he was pretty much done during the pandemic, but he is now back. And so he is excited to take on Planner Walk. That should be a lot of fun. So I have got the timer all set for you, Skylar, and the floor is all yours whenever you're ready.
Yeah, let's see here. I am so confused right now because, first of all, when setting up this debate, we've talked over and over again. We were going to talk about the foundation of objective morals being God. That's what we've been discussing for months. And somehow you're pretending like that isn't your foundation all of a sudden. Now we're going to turn into a general theist.
Okay.
Oh, what? I'm sorry. This is my time. You can't really interrupt me. All right, I'm going to start my time again here. So the thing is that we've been talking forever about setting this debate up, and the foundation would be that you're God, right? So that is what this is about. Now, the hilarity is you're talking about my moral system. What does my moral system have to do with anything that I made an argument for? I didn't make moral judgments. I did an internal critique using your values. Those premises, if you want to disagree with one of my premises, you are more than happy to do so. But I don't think there's anything you disagree with here. Well, maybe besides the God being evil, but God's nature is rooted in the foundation of morality. Obviously, I don't believe in God. So this isn't, I'm doing an internal critique here. So the dishonesty by saying that as if this has no relevance on your position, and the fact you took 5 minutes not to even bother to go after the argument. I took the time to make an argument. You didn't even take any of that 5 minutes to actually address it, right? Instead, what you did was you read your pre-written response to something you anticipated that I was going to argue. I didn't even have that formulated yet when you wrote that. So why, instead of taking that 5 minutes and just going back to your script that you wrote that is not even based on what I actually argued, why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. It would have been much more productive to actually deal with my argument. Let's keep going, though. God can do nothing that goes against his nature. I'm pretty sure a Christian would agree with that. You can feel free to do that. Premise 3, ordering people to do evil would go against God's nature. Do you disagree with that? Premise 4, executing babies is evil. You put a thumbnail up. I'm using what you said to show you that God commits evil actions and commands evil actions. I'm using your worldview. My moral subjectivism has nothing to do with this debate and conversation, right? We don't have to, like, if we were arguing whether a flat earth, right? Say we were arguing a flat earth debate and we were using science to debate each other whether the earth was flat or round. Would we bring my moral positions into it? Would my moral positions be relevant to the data and proving what you're actually arguing? No, they wouldn't. So this is a giant straw man, because this is what I think you probably maybe wanted the debate to be more about. But anyways, so you're going to have to argue. Whoops, actually, hold on a second. Let's unshare this. I'm going to go to my notes that I have up here. We still got like 3 minutes left, 2 minutes left. Let's just read what God does. Let's do the women and children one. Where is it? Come on now. Damn. Okay. I mean, all right, we're not going to do that. I mean, you would have to argue if a man sells his daughter as a servant, she is not to go free as a male as servants do. If she does not please the master who is selected for himself, he must let her be redeemed. He has the right to sell her to foreigners. You'd have to. He has no right to sell her to foreigners. You're going to have to basically argue that it's moral to for men to sell their daughters into slavery. To get out of debt. There's so many things you're going to be forced to argue here. Anyways, I'm really interested in actually hearing you address my argument. I'm doing an internal critique once again. I'm not using my own moral system. It's irrelevant. Its onus is on you to show that moral facts exist. Simply pointing to people saying they exist or feeling like they exist, or even saying my moral position is wrong. Hey, maybe my moral position is wrong. It doesn't make yours right. It doesn't mean that the moral foundations are in God. And this is why I said all this in the beginning. But anyways, I'll give the rest of my minute up. We can go to the next section.
We will go into the cross-examination now. So thanks so much, folks. We are going to set the timer for 10 minutes where SJ will be going first. This is, you could say, pretty flexible for cross-exams. The speakers, if they want, can use it to just ask questions in a strict sense, or to have it be like half questions, half dialogue, or full dialogue. So with that, SJ, the floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you. And so I wanted to just, so the audience knows exactly what the conversation was that led to this debate topic. It says right here in my direct message that you have as well, and James and Skylar, James said, I could do 1 p.m. EDT this Wednesday, but have to be done for sure by 3:45. Sound good? And what title do you want? Skylar writes, I know we were debating existence of objective moral values. Is there a specific wording you prefer? I'm good for time and date. So Skylar actually said that's what we're debating. Also, he writes, I believe SJ wants a format. I'm good with whatever, as long as there is a cross-examination portion. And so I came up with the question, do objective moral values and duties exist? James says, sure, that works. And then we were off. And Skylar wrote, perfect. Okay, so that is a quote. So yes, the title and the topic had already been predetermined by us in our conversation. And so I realized that Skylar prepared to talk about God and he wants to talk about the Old Testament, which is why I prepared in advance, because I've listened to multiple conversations with Skylar and other people where Skylar has basically condemned what God does in the Old Testament, which is a very contradictory position for a moral subjectivist in the first place. So Skylar essentially has to reject his own reject his own position in moral ontology of moral subjectivism to pick up my position of moral realism to make a claim that something that occurred in the past is morally wrong. And so Skylar is essentially doing that. And so do I get to restart my time too, Skylar?
Is there a question in this? Well,
So,
no. This is a conversation between us. This is the time where you ask questions. This isn't just your opening speech.
Skylar, I get to have my 10 minutes. I haven't asked you a question yet. We have a
Oh
free
no,
for all.
you just want a monologue for your 10 minutes. Okay, go ahead.
No. James said that we could each do what we wanted to do.
Yeah, go ahead. Do what you want. Go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, so
ahead.
I want to ask you, as a moral subjectivist, how can you condemn any culture in the past? How does a moral subjectivist do that?
I don't know. What do you mean by condemn? How do I condemn them? I don't typically go and condemn cultures from the past generally.
Like
I would say that they did things against my moral system.
Okay, so why is it wrong?
Wrong in what sense?
Why is it wrong what people did in the ancient past?
No, but I mean, what sense are you using the word wrong? Under my moral system? Why is it wrong under my moral system?
But how would you be able to, like, if you're saying it's wrong, and I say, well, that's just Skylar's opinion, how are you going to convince anybody that your opinion is correct when everyone's opinion holds equal value according to your moral framework?
Well, I don't believe everybody's opinion holds equal value to me. I think people's opinions have different values to me. So it's a straw man on my position.
So why is your opinion that something happened that was wrong in the ancient times? Why should that matter?
It doesn't have to matter to you.
So why did you share it?
I don't. I point out contradictions. Usually when I'm talking about the past, it's within about biblical contradictions. And what I'm doing is an internal critique. You don't see me necessarily raging about like Genghis Khan on my channel and what he's done in the past. I talk about biblical contradictions and the how God is incoherent. That's what I'm talking about. And this is what I said before. This is why I'm confused. You keep saying that I'm using my own judgment moral system, but I'm doing an internal critique. I'm using your God's own moral system. That's why I put that argument up that you still have not addressed yet.
So what you're doing is you're basically taking, and I'll let you use your time to ask me those kind of questions, but what you're doing under your system, as I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is you say, number one, you're a moral subjectivist. Number two, something that occurred in the ancient past is morally wrong.
No, don't say that. No, I didn't say that.
Okay, so it's not morally wrong what happened in the ancient Near East.
Morally wrong under what? My own standard?
Yes.
Are you asking me? Okay, so basically what you're saying is, Skylar, do you have opinions about what people have done in the past? And I would say yes.
Okay, so, but it's not objectively morally wrong.
Oh, of course. This is what our whole debate's on, SJ, is are things objectively morally wrong? Once again, my moral relativism doesn't demonstrate that moral objection or moral facts exist. This is a waste of time. You're literally asking me questions about positions that aren't relevant to you demonstrating what the debate is about.
Okay, we already decided what the debate was about in our direct messages.
Yeah, do objective morals exist? And this has nothing to do with objective morals existing.
Of course it does, because now I want to get to, did what the Nazis
moral relativism has to do with moral objective. Sorry, moral relativism could be wrong. I'm answering your question. If moral relativism could be wrong, it doesn't mean your position's correct.
Okay, so did what the Nazis did in Germany, was that morally wrong?
Under my moral standard? Yeah.
Okay, so it's.
I mean, you're asking questions you know the answer to already. Like, this is weird. Like, what don't you understand? Like, what are you trying to, what's your argument? Maybe that might help. Or what are you trying to get at? Like, you're like, are you a moral subjectivist? Yes. Is this wrong?
Yes. A subjectivist cannot make, I mean, subjectivist opinions don't hold any water. They don't.
You don't have to. They don't have to.
So
they don't have to hold water.
If the whole world engaged in moral subjectivism, which is what your position is, if the whole world engaged in moral subjectivism, no one's opinion is any more valuable than other people's opinions.
No, that's not true. Well, yes, in an objective way, but guess what? That's why do you think it? Well, the problem is, okay, go ahead, finish your statement.
No, I wasn't able to get my statement. I got my 10 minutes. You can have as much time as you want. Your 10 minutes.
Well, I thought this was you asking. If you just want a monologue, you could just take the 10 minutes to monologue. But this is where you ask questions and try to make an argument. But go ahead.
I'm trying to make an argument, but you're not letting me get my point out. Okay, so what I want to say is that if we can look back, if everyone in the world is a moral subjectivist, and everyone basically says, some people say we want to maximize well-being. Some people say we want to maximize human flourishing. Other people basically say we don't care about people. We don't want to maximize well-being. There are people who are
like
psychopaths
Nazis
out there. Yeah. Nazis, right. So Nazis decided what they did within their culture from a cultural relativism perspective. The Nazis were only following orders. Remember the Nuremberg?
And following their morals. Sure.
So they were following orders. They were going against
their morals. Don't forget that part.
So no, they were searing their consciences to be able to get away with this. What they
That's
did was
it's a nice claim. It's a nice claim, but you're not going to be able to
what-
demonstrate that.
What they did was they basically would dehumanize people. They would treat the Jewish people as if they were rats. They actually ran a bunch of propaganda claiming that Jewish people were rats in order to get people to be able to justify something that was in their conscience that they knew was incorrect, because we all have a conscience. Thank God for Romans 2:15 that told us that. But we all have a conscience, and the idea of the reason why we have these objective moral duties, we have a world that basically said we have self-evident axiomatic truths of life, liberty, the pursuit of justice, freedom. Those were all what the Nazis violated. So the Nazis objectively violated certain values that we hold self-evident. So my position, which is the debate topic of does objective morality exist? Yes, objective morality exists, because we have self-evident truths that transcend generations and time and people. So I'll go to you now.
Okay. Was there a question somewhere built into it, or was it just like a bunch of empty claims you want to throw out? Because I didn't actually hear you just saying that basically that these things, the Nazis had a conscience and this was against their conscience and these things are really wrong. Like, just telling me this isn't an argument, SJ. Like, this is just basically regurgitating your claim. If you're going to argue, you're literally arguing. I'm sorry, God does a lot of the same things that Adolf Hitler did.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you your last. Do you want me to ask a last question, or do you want me to just turn it over and you can?
Whatever you want to do, you can ask the next question.
Okay, so my last question, I'll give you my last question is: did you agree to the debate title in the direct message?
I did, after lots of back talk between us privately through many conversations, and you saying that we were going to root it in God's nature. I mean, it does work with the debate. It's not like the debate topic's off, right? Like, your point is to say objective moral facts exist, right? Your foundation is God. And I'm showing you how the way you put them in a foundation makes it so it can exist the way that you're arguing. So I'm on topic. I don't know why you think that by attacking the Christian God, I can't stay on topic. That's the position you hold. I'm attacking your position. I'm showing why it's contradictory. That's why I agreed to the debate. So there you go.
I suppose now would be a good time where there's about 30 seconds left, SJ, if you want to switch over to the cross-examination 10-minute section from Skylar, we can do that. Otherwise, you have that last 30 seconds if you want to use it.
Please.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good.
You got it. So we will switch over, setting the timer for 10 minutes for Skylar, and then he'll be doing his cross-examination of SJ right now. Skylar, the floor is all yours.
Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Okay. All right. I'm going to do what you did in your video, where I ask you questions and you can just tell me if something's moral or not. You asked all these questions about Nazis and things. So just tell me, is it objectively morally good to sell your daughter into marriage to get out of debt?
No.
No. So in Deuteronomy, God tells people they can do that. Number 2, is the act of circumcision an objectively morally good thing?
Yes.
Yes. So mutilating men's penises, or it is a morally good thing to harm a baby.
Makes them less likely to disease later. So it's actually something that's
actually not. It's actually not. It'll make them less likely. Just if you actually clean your thing, you actually clean your skin there, you actually will have no issue.
What about
as far as it goes? Well, people who don't, that's their own fault. They're dirty. So clean your junk, folks. Don't be dirty. So basically, it's moral. It's not against God's moral nature to have people take a baby, cut the skin of the penis off of its forehead, and cause it pain and suffering.
I have no problem with circumcision. I actually think it's a good practice for your health.
Good. You agree with mutilating babies' penises. Number 3, is it morally good action that God, here it is. Is it a morally good action for God to make his own creation commit acts of cannibalism on their own children?
No, God didn't actually. He doesn't want anybody killing their own child, sacrificing them. And actually, you've asked me
I'll cut you off there. Yeah, that's actually incorrect. I'm going to keep going with my questions. That's actually, I can give you Jeremiah. Actually, he says that he's going to do that. I'll give you if you want the quote for it real quick. I think it's Jeremiah 9, where he tells you that he will make parents eat their baby. Unfortunately, let me just do that real quick. If you want it, would you like the actual scripture for it, or?
Well, the context, you have to go with the whole context, Skylar. That's one
sure.
of the problems.
Hold on, here it is. No, it's okay. No, I got SJ. I'll do mine. And I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they shall eat every one the flesh of his friend, and the siege and the straightness wherein their enemies, and then they seek their life shall straighten. Jeremiah 19:9. Okay, next question. Is it morally good to take women and children as plunder during wartime?
Let me go back to all of your questions let me just answer it just in general, because your questions are all going to be like a gish gallop, essentially, of asking me a
That's
bunch
not
of
what a
things
gish
that you won't
gallop is.
tell
No, I'm just asking you a question.
Well, let me-
No. This is my time. Hold on, my time.
To answer it,
I
I
would
have
just
to be
like
able to-
SJ.
You're
I would
asking
just
me a
like
question, now I can't even answer
SJ.
it?
I'm going to give you, but here's how I'd like you to answer. I would
You-
like
you
to
didn't
yes
give me
or
a chance.
SJ.
Skylar, you didn't give me a
I'm
chance
going to need
to answer it.
moderation here a second, because
Oh
if
my
SJ doesn't
gosh.
stop talking.
So,
SJ,
I mean,
here's how I'd like
well,
you to answer.
if you're able to,
with a yes,
is
yeah.
I mean, if there is a question, if you want to say it's rhetorical, that's fine. But like otherwise,
No. But I'm explaining how here's how I want it. I want a yes or a no, and then you can explain your answer. Is that fair?
I have to be able to first explain the answer before I say yes or no. so I
No.
can show
You need to
why.
say yes or no. No, you can say yes or no, and then you can
I'm
explain
just not
your
going
answer.
to do that,
All
Skylar.
right,
I'm not
that's
gonna do
fine then.
that.
I'll just keep asking
If I
questions.
can't explain my answers, I don't see a reason to answer.
Is it morally good to execute a baby?
Let me explain what Skylar's doing here. So what we have
No.
is in the ancient...
I'm sorry. No. This isn't your time. This is your time to answer questions, SJ. It's not your time to tell me
James,
what
help.
you think I'm
Please
doing.
help, James.
This isn't a
This is
moderation
ridiculous.
issue. SJ, this isn't a moderation issue. You follow the rules. I'm asking you questions. This is your time to answer the questions, and please do it.
It's a little bit difficult. That I mean, like, if SJ like asked a question and the other person answered it in such a way that it wasn't in yes no, like, I normally would kind of be like people are gonna answer the way they want. Like I can't I don't want to like force that. We've never like forced anybody's hand to say.
No, that's
like,
fine. Listen, if she doesn't want to answer, that's fine. Don't answer.
No,
Don't
I
answer the
do want to
question.
answer, but I want to explain my answer.
Yeah. I'm going to let you explain, but you need to tell me whether it's moral or not. Then you can explain why it's moral or not moral. It's very simple.
I have to first be able to explain the context of the
So
ancient Near East and why...
no. You can't. I'm sorry. Was it moral to execute babies or not? Oh, here, let's do this. Forget it. Hold on. Let's just go over where are we at time-wise? Because we wasted a lot of time with SJ not answering. Because I'd like to actually go to my argument.
Got about 5
Let's do my argument. All right, let's do that then. Let's go to my let's go to my premises of my argument and see. Tell me which premise you don't agree with. Is it hold on. God's nature is the root and foundation of morality? Is that true?
That's true.
Premise 2, God can do nothing that goes against his nature?
God is the standard of moral being. True.
True. Number 3, premise 3, ordering people to do evil would go against God's nature?
That goes to what Cleitarchos said. So Cleitarchos stated that as the flame burning the child surrounded the body, the limbs would shrivel up and the mouth would appear to grin as if laughing until it was shrunk enough to slip into the cauldron. This was referring to the practice that Canaanites and other ancient peoples had of sacrificing their own children in the arms of Baal. And it was a terrible
yes
practice.
or no yet.
So early first century and second
this.
century people actually gave us evidence in archaeology. They gave us evidence in writings. We have
SJ,
evidence,
answer
of
the
course, in
question.
the Bible.
SJ.
Well, one of the reasons why God decided to terminate all of these people, including babies in this case, was because he realized what they were capable of doing. And God in his omniscience had mercy on us.
SJ, please
and
pause.
that,
Please, you're overrunning your time. I want to know, do you accept the premise or not?
I don't have, what's the premise?
Ordering people to do evil would go against God's nature. Do you accept that premise?
God doesn't order people to do evil, no.
Okay, fine. But if he did, it would go against his nature.
He just doesn't do it. He doesn't order people.
Correct. That's fine. But yes. So premise 3, you accept. You're just saying that God. So ordering people to do evil would go against God's nature. You're not accepting. No, I'm saying. I hear that you're saying that he doesn't do that.
He doesn't.
But you're not. Okay. Yes, that's fine. We're not saying that he does it at this point. I'm just getting you to acknowledge that if he did do that, that would go against his own nature, and that's why he won't do that.
He hasn't done it. He actually, it was in his
SJ, yes. Do you accept the premise yet?
You're really difficult to debate with.
No, the problem is, SJ, the problem is you're dodging what I'm asking you. Do you accept the premise or not?
I told you.
Do you accept the premise or not?
I've already said. I've already said 3 times I rejected the premise, Skylar.
So you reject so God can do things that are against his own nature.
No, I reject the premise that God has done that.
That's not the premise we're at, SJ. That's premise 4 or 5. We're still at premise 3, I believe.
Okay, well, I don't have your premises right in
I
front
know.
of me.
Listen. Ordering people to do evil would go against God's nature. It's not saying he did it. It just says if he was to do it, it would be going against his nature. That's logical. All right, I'll move on to the next one. I know, no shit, SJ, he didn't do it, but that's not what I'm asking you. Premise 4, executing babies is immoral or is evil.
Circumstantial.
It depends on the situation. If it's evil to kill babies, is that what you just said?
It depends on the situation.
Okay, so sometimes it's okay to kill babies. It's moral.
Sometimes within a culture such as the Canaanites, yes.
Well, you believe morals are absolute. It doesn't matter if it's just the culture.
No, I believe.
I'm sorry. So that value is relative to the culture.
Wait,
who the people are.
I believe that God realized that babies in those cultures were going to be suffering if they became adults. So he merely changed their location from earth to heaven.
No, when you say he didn't just take them up to heaven, he told people to go in with swords and slice them open. So let's be a little real. He didn't just like change their location. It would be such an issue. He changed their location. No, bye. Okay. This is SJ. Hey, I'm just going to change my son's location by chopping off his head and throwing him in a dumpster. Just changing his location.
You don't believe in heaven, but I do. And I believe that those babies are now in heaven.
I know. Yeah, I got you. I know. But, after they were executed brutally. Okay. So it's, I guess, well, good. That if you think babies can be executed sometimes and it's morally correct, that's on you, man. Then I'll just stop with the argument because the argument doesn't work because you think that killing babies isn't necessarily evil. It's not a moral. It's not an objective moral fact that it's evil to kill babies.
It was God's tremendous mercy that he had on these people that he realized that he didn't want them to live in such a horrible culture where things like rape and bestiality and all kinds of other horrible, horrific,
I hate to tell you this, SJ, but he didn't have to violently kill kids to achieve his goal. He could have took all the souls out of the babies. No, but what he does is then the opposite. The other part of this, SJ, is what he makes soldiers do. Imagine our government made U.S. soldiers go into cities in different countries and execute children and babies, like ordered them to do it. Think about the mental anguish and the awfulness. What an evil act that is. Would you call it evil? Let me ask you this. Would it be evil for a general to command a soldier to go kill a baby?
No, you don't kill women and children. That's always been the rule.
So that would be evil. So it's always evil when you kill women and children.
See, the uniqueness about
no, you just said yes. Is it always evil to kill women and children?
No, it's not always evil. It depends on the situation. Sometimes. Well, it depends on if the person who's the general.
So it's relative. Then it's not absolute. I'm sorry.
You're so bad with interrupting.
Sorry, your foundation doesn't change. Okay. If you're saying it's okay in some situations, it's okay in others. It's not okay in others. Your foundation changes. You don't have a foundation. What you do is you have moral relativism, masking it like moral objectivism. Okay, thank you, James. I appreciate you.
Really? I mean, it's awful.
We're now going to
go terrible, SJ. Sorry, buddy.
So thanks so much, everybody, for your questions. I'm going to be reading through as many as we possibly can with the time that we have. So it's been about an hour of debate, and we usually do about 25, 30 minutes of Q&A. So thanks so much for all of your questions. Do want to mention, I am so sorry. I was distracted at the start of the debate. So it was only now, or I should say, well, not now, but 20 minutes ago that I got the speakers links in the description. So do encourage you. Check those out. We have got, I think, even more people now here. So if you have enjoyed what you've heard and you're like, who's this? I've never heard before. Well, now is your chance. You can hear more from them as I put both of their links in the description just for you. So thanks so much. Starting with a super chat from none other than our good friend, Steven Steen. Nasty guy says, there's just no way for Skylar to refute this. You never know if he's serious. He's a troll. Thanks for that. Stupid whore. I mean, if you want to respond, you can, Skylar, but I think you know Steven.
My daughter, just give me your guess. I'm on a debate. I'm debating people on the internet, folks. Anyway, sorry. No. You know what, Steven? Listen, the truth is, Steven has a secret love for me, and I didn't want to make this public, but I think it's good for him to get it out there. Get those feelings out on the table. All right, James, we can go.
Thank you for that. And Stupid Whore Energy, thanks for your super chat. She says objective means mind independent, not stance independent. SJ, if you want to respond to that, I think that's toward you.
Yeah, I would. The academic literature on objective morality quite clearly calls it stance independent. It's something that I get out of the Journal of Business Ethics, if you'd like a reference.
Next up, thanks for your super chat from Brian Stevens, who says, super chatting to bump my question, I hope. Gotcha. Thanks for that. Darn it all, I have to find your question now. So sorry about that. Shoot your question to me. I must have missed it because I don't have it here in the list. I've got Nathan's, but Brian, so sorry about that. Michael, the Canadian atheist, thanks for your super chat, who said, SJ, the golden rule breaks down. Hitchens laid this out. What do we do when we're faced with Charles Manson? We want him treated differently than we'd want to be treated ourselves. Or do you disagree?
What I would want with the golden rule basically says we want to ensure that we treat others as we treat ourselves. And it's this idea of mercy and justice. And so with Charles Manson, I would wanted to assure that, yes, we have some mercy on it in some sense, but of course we want him to have a just serving of his sentence. So we'd want to make sure that he gets justice regardless of whether or not we feel, if we were in his position, if I were Charles Manson and I did what I would do, I would expect that people would want to hold me accountable and that I would have to face justice of long-term imprisonment or death.
Gotcha. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. And Divine Disbelief, thanks for your super chat as well. They asked, SJ, if we in America have better values, why are we defending separating families, seeking asylum, and keeping children in camps, or Japanese Americans?
I've never supported that. So I know we have a Democrat political Republican divide in that idea. I actually am in favor of immigration and relaxing the restrictions on the 12 million undocumented immigrants who are in this country. I think that's a great move. I think we need to move towards that. And I for sure support the idea of allowing their children to remain in this country and go to our schools under DACA.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for your super chat. Josiah Bradbury. Appreciate it. They asked, SJ, doesn't the fact that morals differ mean that it isn't objective? You say that we all can see it's wrong, but obviously not everyone does.
Okay, that's the question of this epistemology versus ontology. So the question is, do morals exist? And so the comparison I can give to explain this point is the math comparison. Just because I don't appreciate math, or I don't like math, or I don't understand math, or I haven't come to discover math, doesn't mean that math doesn't exist. Same thing with a lot of different things. So just because I don't appreciate a globe, or I don't believe in the globe, I mean, this could be a flat earther's argument. And it's just, the idea is the globe exists. It's a fundamental truth.
Gotcha.
Can I just say too with this question that part of the problem, which I was going to do a two kind of part of my arguments, but is that like there's this just hidden morality from all of us, and we have to discover it, right? It's weird that morality was hidden for like thousands of years, where women were literally treated like human property and were raped, brutally owned, bought, sold, slavery, all these things, all of somehow, like, what good is having a moral system God wants us to follow if it's going to take thousands of years for us to discover it, right? It seems like it would be a much more functional tool if we all had it to begin with. So there are some serious issues with this idea of like moral progression and this true, there's these other morals, but there's these really real morals that are up there in the sky that we just have to get access to, and then we'll be able to be moral beings.
That was the beauty of Jesus Christ just appearing, because Jesus actually gave us the example by which we now live. And so we've noticed morality improve over the last 2,000 years thanks to Jesus and his example of humility and selfless love.
Well, there's no improvement on morality.
That was the super chat was originally for SJ, so I'm going to give her the last word on that.
Yeah.
Brian Stevens, thanks for your question, who asked, could God have commanded the Israelites to raise the babies instead? Would this have been more moral, yes or no? So two questions in there. Could God have done it? Would it have been more moral?
One of the issues that happens in the past and why this wasn't the case and why this didn't happen is something that people called retribution. And so the babies, if they were raised, they would do retribution because that was something that was their cultures would have taught them, and they would have discovered at some point, and they would come back and kill the Israelites who had raised them.
That's so ridiculous. Like, I want you to think about if you took a Nazi baby, let's say a baby of a Nazi soldier, right? You took it home to America before it ever grew up in Nazi Germany. Say you never taught it about Nazi Germany or anything like that. Do you think that somehow that baby's going to have knowledge that would make it want to seek revenge one day on this other nation? Like, what if you taught the kid also about how awful the parents were? Like, hey, just to let you know, your parents were cannibals. They were raping children. Like, you're growing up in our culture where you're going to assimilate into our cultural norms. Which would you prefer? Would you rather have stayed somewhere where you were going to be eaten and raped, or taken with us? Would you still want to seek revenge? Give me a break, SJ.
Well, we don't have, and it's because it was a question directed to me, is we don't have the same sort of codes of retribution that they had in the ancient times. So we can't really exactly compare a Nazi baby in modern times to what happened in ancient times.
It wouldn't know, SJ. If you took a baby to America and it never knew anything about that culture, how would it know about retribution?
We're going to give SJ the last word on this.
It wouldn't.
And then I've got to get back into the questions just because I don't want it to be kind of like a team up where we got two people getting to kind of jump on SJ each time. So SJ, go ahead, and then we'll go back to the next one, which is go ahead, SJ.
I'm just going to say that ancient Near East was a really rough place, and people in a lot of these cultures were doing horrible things. And so they were doing things like they were worshiping gods and having sex in temples to try to appease the gods. They were sacrificing their children to Baal in his arms, burning him because they thought they'd get better crops, because they valued crops better than people back in those times. Individuals were given no value. So thankfully, Jesus, when he appeared, completely changed the game. And now we have a beautiful, much better, richer West that's also influenced the rest of the world in very positive ways, with giving women rights and babies rights and hospitals and facilities for education and universities. And everyone's equally entitled to get these sort of, we're all entitled to certain laws. We're all equally treated under the law. It goes totally against the Digital Code of Hammurabi, for example. But anyway, I just want to say that trying to compare our culture today to the past is flawed in a couple of ways, especially if you're a moral subjectivist.
Next up, let's see. Apollo Jedi, thanks for your super chat, said, Skylar missed the topic and thus already lost.
No, I think the topic was, do objective morals exist? And I took what SJ's argument was and how she views as the foundation of her God and the foundation of these morals, and showed you how they were incoherent. So I don't know how I really missed the topic. I think missing the topics when you bring up moral relativism, when you're trying to demonstrate that moral facts exist. There are many different type of moral theories. Those aren't the only two.
Next up, Divine Disbelief. Thanks for your super chat. They said, Skylar won because he didn't kill me with the PowerPoint. Thanks for that. You can respond if you want.
I almost had one. But I was like, you know what? Let's not do that. Go ahead. Sorry.
Michael Dresden, let's see, says, Skylar lost already because he's totally off the topic. It's a different one from the last one.
I don't know. I mean, all I did was talk about morality and the foundation of God and where her objective morals come from, right? Like, think about it like this, right? Imagine like someone robbed a bank and, they ran really fast, right? And the detectives get to a suspect's house and they're like, hey, we think this is the person's house. We're going to figure this out. And they go in and the person has no legs. Well, it's not possible this person with no legs committed this crime that happened recently if they were running on two legs and going fast. So I'm just destroying the foundation. So there's no, I knew she wouldn't be able to demonstrate objective facts exist, but at least we can get into the foundation and show why it's so flawed. Anyways.
Next up, let's see. We have one from Anamorphic Mind. Thanks for your super chat. They said, whoa, 30 minutes in and Skylar already won. How does he do it? You've got a fan out there, Skylar. Let's see.
It's the hat.
Josiah Bradbury, thanks for your super chat. They said, SJ, you claim that morality transcends cultures, etc., but the fact that cultures have differences with morality, doesn't that mean it does not transcend people?
No, just because people have differences of opinion or differences in their views of math, for example, doesn't mean math doesn't exist. Again, this is an ontological question, not an epistemological question. So there's a distinction that needs to be made. How you come to know something is not the same as whether something exists. And the question of the debate was, does morality exist?
Next up, appreciate your question from Subtracted, who asks, SJ, what model does God base his own morality on?
God doesn't base his morality on a model. God actually is the model. God's the standard against which all practices are judged.
Gotcha. Divine Disbelief, thanks for your super chat, who said, SJ, read the Constitution as it was signed. Where is the word freedom?
The word's liberty.
Gotcha. Josiah Bradbury, thanks for your super chat, who says, SJ, the fact that you have to explain context, doesn't that mean that morality is not objective?
No, the fact that we have axiomatic truths that we know that even our founding fathers in the United States adhered to demonstrates the fact that we have moral facts, moral objective facts.
It's just not one to kill a baby. So that's the key. It's like some of them are to her, but killing a baby, not a moral fact transcended from God, because that has a context to it.
Apollo Jedi, thanks for your super chat. Says, oh, give me 1 second. I just had like a blip in my connection. Apollo Jedi says, Skylar Loss is desperate to change the debate topic. You got a critic out there.
Oh, those critics. I always invite people, come over to my channel, SkylarFictionShow@gmail.com. Skylar Fiction Show on YouTube. Come over, have a debate with me, conversation. I'd love it. Let's talk to James. Anytime James comes to me with something, I say yes. Most of the time. Gets me into trouble sometimes, James. Anyways.
Veckel, thanks for your super chat. They said, Skylar, I'm your Huckleberry. Very sweet.
It's fucking funny.
I
love Veckel.
Divine Disbelief, thanks for your super chat, who said, SJ, abortion is God's mercy. Prove me wrong.
Abortion is killing children. God made it clear that before he knew us, before we were in the womb, he knew us. And so this idea of because a baby's an inconvenience inside your body, you can go ahead and kill it, is objectively morally wrong.
Gotcha.
It didn't apply to pregnant women in those civilizations like the Amalekites, Canaanites, though. Those pregnant women, the context, it was okay to kill them.
Genius Tracks, thanks for your super chat. They said, SJ, you lost by your own words. You said it, quote, depends on the situation. That's the definition of relativism. Take that L.
Yeah, let me answer that. When I say we have objective morality, I don't say that there is no moral relativism. Moral relativism exists. I'm saying it doesn't exist as a standalone. We need both objective and relative morals. In fact, you can go to different cultures and find that we have different values around the world. Authors such as Gert Hofstede or Franz Trompenaars, Robert House, a number of people have done cross-cultural studies to identify differences in cultures, but then other people like Shalom Schwartz have actually found cultural universals that all cultures share. And so we have both.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Next up, appreciate your super chat from Stupid Whore Energy Strikes Again. She says, Skylar, you're my new favorite debater.
Oh, thank you.
Very sweet.
I appreciate it.
Sentinel Apologetics, another old friend of yours, Skylar. He comes in.
Rob Rowe, man. I've been trying to talk to him forever. James, maybe you could make that happen on this show. A Rob Rowe Skylar Fiction debate. Sorry, go ahead, James. Don't throw it out. I'm just, Okay.
Well, you never know. Skylar, he says, cannibalism curses appear in treaties between the Assyrians and its vassals. The verses you cite are classic in the ancient Near East. God's not to blame.
Listen, if you don't take... I appreciate the fact you don't take a literal view on the Bible then, and you don't necessarily take a view that it means exactly how it reads. I actually appreciate that position because I think this is how fundamentalists get themselves in trouble. When it says something like God will do this, like make the parents eat their children through cannibalism, and you say that part of the Bible is not really God speaking or not inspired by God, this is just what man wrote, I applaud you. I think that's a good position to take. I'm glad you take it.
Gotcha.
Can I add something to that?
If you'd like.
There's a lot of verses.
Last word, but
yeah, no problem.
No, please. I did it a lot to her, so she should.
There's a lot of verses in the Bible where a lot of times there are creeds that were memorized in the past, like 1 Corinthians 15, for example, has been known as a pre-memorized creed that Paul brought. And so this idea of some of the things that are in the Bible, like Mark 14, you're going to notice that the Greek that's in Mark 14 changes a little bit in the quality, depending on whether or not he's quoting something from the past, a memorized speech, and he's trying to translate it because it was in a different language, or whether he's putting it out there himself as a Greek-speaking person. And so that same kind of thing is how you can look into some of the passages in the Old Testament and find if you've got evidence that somehow the quality of somebody's writing declines, is usually because they've taken some sort of passage from the past and quoted it.
Gotcha. If you want, you can respond, Skylar. Otherwise, we'll go to the next one.
No, I'm good.
Next up, thanks, Josiah Snake was right, and also Jesse, I think it's Jesse Camping, for your super chats. We'll be getting to those. Appreciate that. And Merlin72001 had asked earlier, do apologists notice how dishonest it looks when instead of answering the question asked, they scramble to invent a context to explain it away? How you like them apples, SJ?
Scramble to invent a context. Yeah, I think that the reason, scholarly literature basically doesn't scramble to invent a context. What scholarly literature does is it looks into the past and it puts together all the information that we have coming from places like archaeology and history and the Bible and outside the Bible. And they put together their best knowledge. They don't scramble to create a context. That would be totally irresponsible of any scholar.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. Next up, James, hopefully I pronounced this right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Paganini, let me know. Coming at you, Skylar. They're throwing some flair at you. They said, Skylar, do you not see abortion as the slaughter of innocent children?
I'm pro-life.
Gotcha.
I'm not pro-abortion.
Thanks for your super chat, Brian Stevens, who says, in your opening, you stated that objective moral duties are independent of culture, SJ. Thus, we should follow the moral duties the ancient Near East followed. Yes or no?
No, that's not what I said. No, I said that we have objective moral duties and they're all across cultures and they transcend generations and times and people. And so we have them today in our culture, and we have them in other cultures, and they're going to have them 1,000 years from now in another culture if we're still around.
Gotcha. Next up, Snake was right, who, by the way, helps us. He actually designed the thumbnail for this debate. We appreciate that, Taylor. You guys, he's been helping a lot with the graphics. He says, SJ, would you debate an atheist who believes objective morality, AKA me? And when I say me, I mean him.
I'd love to. Yeah, I've debated a few. I've debated Adam Friended. I've debated, who else? Richard Carrier. I've debated other people who've taken on the view. In fact, Skylar actually is the first atheist I've ever debated who's a subjectivist. So I was really looking forward to this debate.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Let's see. Next up, SJ, would you debate? Josiah Bradbury, thanks for your super chat. They said, SJ, you claim moral axioms are evidence for objective morals, and yet have dodged my question 3 times by saying that other moral axioms are irrelevant.
That's unfortunate because I'm wondering what moral axioms he's talking about. I don't think I've ruled out moral axioms. The idea of is doing what's good and doing what's right as far as the moral implications.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. Let's see. Jesse Camping, thanks for your super chat, who said violations are objective. The retribution is subjective. Your opinions. I think they're saying that those claims are opinions.
Yeah, we all have opinions. It's when you find that these opinions tend to transcend societies that they become something that's axiomatic. And so we see that with what I mentioned before with life, liberty, and justice. We all have a value to life now. It's something we've discovered, and it's a good thing because the ancient cultures were pretty rotten.
Gotcha. And Brian Stevens has a quick follow-up, and he says, do we have the same objective moral duties as the ancient Near East?
Yes, it's just that they hadn't discovered them quite as well as we have.
Next up, Digital Hammurabi. Good to see you. They say, I love that it is the, quote, digital code of Hammurabi.
Thank you. He spotted. I knew he was in the audience. I knew he'd catch me on that. That was a slip. Sorry, Digital. Yes, I had you in mind when I made that statement.
That's funny. Subtracted, thanks for your super chat, who said, God being good by his own standards is circular.
The idea of God is the being versus doing distinction here. And so God is being. And so as a being, he's something that it's hard for us to understand that, but his actions aren't something that speaks to his being. He's just, his core nature is something that needs to be distinguished.
Gotcha.
Did you say his actions don't speak to his being?
His actions are an outpouring of his being, but his core nature is basically a standard against which we judge all morality.
Next.
Yes. So, but all right, never mind.
Next up, I like this one.
It's just
Dr.
so
Gart.
contradictory.
Dr. Sygart says, Dr. Gart says, off topic but important. Conspiracy theories are dangerous and deadly in these times. Please cancel all conspiracist platforming, including the Flat Earth debate, for the sake of public health. Thanks. I will take that seriously, think deeply about it. I totally understand like the risk of platforming dangerous views, and I would concede that like some conspiracy theory ideas are like sick or even dangerous in a practical like real life sense. The counter argument that I have in my own kind of internal conversation about this is that the challenge is that a lot of these people, and so I mean I'm not trying to say that this is the refutation for the super chat, but I'm trying to say that my guess is most people know what the response to this is, where I'm kind of stuck between the two, and it's a hard spot for me, because some would say, well, if you don't have these people come on and go against Skylar or whoever it is, SJ, you know, they will be on their own channels spreading this, and it will be unrefuted. There won't be another, you know, beware the sound of one hand clapping. There will only be one case being made, and so they would say maybe it's better if we have people exposed to this. I don't know. I don't, you know, it's an empirical question, frankly. Like, that is something you could empirically test, whether or not it would be better for people to be exposed to one or the other. I mean, and at the same time, you might say, I mean, I will take it seriously. I mean, I was going to say that there's a rebuttal in response to that, which I just said, that Dr. Gart or others in that camp might give, and I take that seriously. I mean, it's a really tough spot. So, you know, I do take it seriously, though. There are topics we have not done yet, because Flat Earth, I could say, maybe you could say it's a gateway conspiracy, that maybe it leads to other dangerous conspiracies, because it itself isn't perhaps dangerous, depending on your opinion. But there are some that I have not hosted because I am like, yeah, I'm caught in that debate. So we'll take it seriously. Thanks for that, Dr. Gart. And Dean Meadows, thanks for your super chat, who said, Skylar, if objective moral values don't exist, why does it matter if the people of Israel arbitrarily kill people for their own flourishing?
Oh, sorry. So it's about that time of day. Okay, so here's the deal. Why does it matter? Okay, well, let me tell you why it matters to me. I have this thing called empathy in me, and for some reason, I love people. I love and care about other individuals out there. And I'm typically not down with like killing people. So when you ask me, like, why does it matter to me? Why, when another group of people kills another group of people, why does that bother me? It's because I'm not a fucking sociopath. I'm a human being that has emotions, opinions, empathy, and an intellect. So that's why it matters to me.
Gotcha. Thanks for that. Appreciate it. And thanks for the, I think, final super chat, which is from the, let's see. No, Josiah Bradbury, thanks for yours as well. He said, SJ, your claim of objectivity is just a claim. I think they're maybe saying they want more of the like substance of the argument. Maybe if you want to recite it, whatever it is that you want to say.
Yeah, so I was just I look at something like a Skylar, and I look at the basic argument is that if we have these objective moral values and duties to do what's right, then we have objective morality. And if we can evidence that we have these moral values and duties and they transcend generations and eras and times, then we have evidence of objective morality, because they're stance independent. They don't matter by this culture's opinion of it or that culture's opinion of it. For example, if the Nazis won the war and they took over the entire world and they basically decided that they were going to kill everybody except the Aryan race, that would be objectively wrong, because it's a violation of life, which is one of the objective moral standards that we all value. And so they're taking people's lives, so they're going against the morality. So even if the whole world was left of Nazis doing these egregious activities, then they were doing the wrong thing. So it's stance independent. It doesn't matter what the Nazis think. It just is saying there's these values of life, liberty, justice, pursuit of happiness in the American institution. I'm sorry, in the Declaration.
Just notice the empty assertion where it's like that we all know is wrong and it would still be wrong. That's not easy. It's just saying, like, going to something that you can appeal to a lot of people, because a lot of people have empathy, and saying, well, this wouldn't be like, into something you have an emotional connection to. It's weird because you're arguing objective morals by trying to like connect emotion in there, in a sense. And by just saying that, you're not actually making an argument. You're just saying, hey, all these people seem to think this is wrong. It feels wrong to me, therefore objective morals. It's just an assertion. In the very end.
No, what I was saying was, even if the Nazis had decided that what they're doing by killing everybody is right, it's still objectively wrong, because it's a violation of life, liberty, and free.
Well, that's the assertion, but you haven't demonstrated that exists. All you're saying is that we human beings have some of these attributes and that they use them, but you haven't demonstrated that these things are from God are objective.
The debate wasn't about whether these things are from God. The debate is basically looking at, do these exist?
They exist.
And I can point out, besides the United States Declaration of Independence, where they hold these truths to be self-evident, I could also look
all
at the
written
United...
by people.
Wait, please stop interrupting me.
Well, I mean, you're just going to things that people have written.
It was, I think if I remember right, the super chat was maybe for SJ, so I do want to give her a chance to respond to it, and then
we should have did an open discussion debate, but this SJ wouldn't allow that. We could have had a much better conversation.
Well, the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights also evidences these axiomatic truths of life and the value of human life. And so since we have that, and that transcends time, generation, and people, it's evidence of objective morality.
You're just saying people believe something. That's all you said. And then you say it transcends without any evidence. You're just like, it transcends it. And then certain people, these organizations, this person, they all believe it. So that makes it objective. That's your argument. Go ahead. Just ridiculous. That is that's literally what you were saying. You're pointing to people. You are literally pointing to people.
I'm so sorry, folks.
Who say that this is objective and then saying, look, it's objective.
Skylar, the outsider humanist, thanks for your super chat. Appreciate your kind words. They said, host appreciation. James is neat. I appreciate that. That means a lot. You make me blush. And Nate Brody, thanks for your super chat. They said, SJ, can you please name one objective moral fact?
Yeah, the value of life.
Gotcha. Next up, appreciate it. We do have maybe one or two questions, standard questions we can get to, as Nathan Ormond has definitely been wanting his question to be read. This came in early. Nathan asked, if I say, quote, square triangles exist, and you say, quote, square triangles are an incoherent concept, does that mean that you accept square triangles exist?
No.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. And with that, I think I had gotten Brian Stevens, let me know if I missed yours. I meant to get yours for sure, and I think I did. So want to say thanks so much, guys. I have to get ready for class, and then I think I know that SJ had mentioned something too, and Skylar, I'm sure, has plenty on his plate too. It's for those of you who are parents, oh man, as a single guy, I've got it easy. I'm impressed and give you admiration and respect to be both, just juggling all the different things you're doing and also kind of doing the homeschool thing. So whoever, both SJ and Skylar, as well as everybody out there, want to say congrats to you. You are heroes in a sense. It's not an easy task. So thanks so much though, Skylar and SJ. I have put both of their links in the description, folks. Please feel free if you're like, I want more. Well, you can have more at those links in the description box below. But SJ and Skylar, thanks so much for being with us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, folks, thanks so much. It's always fun. Tomorrow will be Bernie or Biden. So we are going to have two rare guests. We don't get to have them on very much, but they will be debating whether or not Bernie or Biden are best to go with for the Democratic primaries. And also, Divine Disbelief asks in their super chat, who has the corgi? I heard it bark.
Oh, I have I don't know if she's a Schnauzer mix or what she is, or an Irish Terrier, but I have a Terrier type of dog.
Gotcha. Let's see. Oh, hold on one sec. I'm so sorry. I did miss. Okay, I did. Brian Stevens, I did miss you. He said, thanks for letting me know that, Brian. He said, if objective moral values transcend time, why did the ancient Near East not have them?
They had them. They hadn't discovered them.
Gotcha. Thanks so much. And thanks, folks, for being here with us. A lot going on in the live chat. It's always fun. You guys make it fun. The debaters are the lifeblood of the channel. We can't thank them enough. And also, though, you in the chat, just make it a blast with your questions and just kind of being here and debating with one another. We do want to encourage you. We want to give you praise and thanks for those of you out there who have been kind to each other. We appreciate you doing that in the live chat. It's true. Once in a while, it gets a little bit rowdy in there. It gets a little bit sassy, but we do want to, I think that's a small percentage. It's just most noticeable, but I do want to give like a huge notice and attention to those people who are positive, who are kind. We really appreciate you, especially just for being that. But, just thanks for hanging out with us. And we will be back, like I said, tomorrow with Bernie or Biden. Then Friday, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember here. I think we have maybe 2 on Friday. So this weekend, though, is going to be hopping. You have seen we have that veganism debate this Saturday. So that'll be a lot of fun. But anyway, take care. Keep something reasonable. Yep.
James, can I just mention, I in a half hour, I'm going to be on my channel with Esther O'Reilly. She's really awesome. I just want to put that out there.
You betcha. So yes, folks, if you have an after show on any channel, and in this case, even if it be an interview with someone else, we are happy to, kind of spread the word. So I hope you have a great rest of your day, folks. And thanks for being with us. Keep sifting out the reasonable from the unreasonable.